Greetings and salutations, everyone. I hope everyone is doing well this evening. Tonight I've got two terrifying tales that come from my neck of the woods. Yes, upstate New York. Before we get into these two encounters, a couple links I'd like to share with you. I'm a commercial-free channel, so I rely on my Patreon, PayPal, and merch link to help this channel grow and go. Also, my second channel is a channel dedicated to creepypastas, fan fiction, and scary voice acting. That link is in the description as well, if that's anything that you're into. Follow that link and give some of those stories a listen. You might just like them. And with that, guys, let's get on with these encounters, shall we? Our first encounter brings us to Sullivan County, New York. Hello. I have a story and some questions that follow up. I don't know what I encountered, but after asking around, I decided to come here. This story takes place in an unknown place called Lake Anawanda, next to Lake Tanaha. These lakes are in upstate New York in the Catskill Mountains. Anyway, me and my cousins like to take evening walks around the lake. We were walking like usual when we noticed something unusual. There was something in the middle of the road about 10 yards away. We took one step forward to see, and it looked like a coyote. Though it looked like a coyote, it was way too big to be. This thing was huge. It looked like a coyote. He had red eyes that were very unsettling. It stared us down as we stood there in shock. This went on for about a minute before it pranced off into the woods. My cousins and I proceeded to sprint in the opposite direction. Now, with that out of the way, I have some questions for people who know about this kind of stuff. Does anyone know what Lake Anawanda's name means? By the way, I'm not Native American. Is the Catskills a hot spot for skinwalkers? Was what I saw possibly a skinwalker? If anyone, by any chance, wants to see where Lake Anawanda is, just Google it. Our second encounter of the evening. So every summer, I go up to a lake in upstate New York, near the Canadian border. My family has a house that is pretty much in the middle of nowhere. It's a 30 to 45 minute drive to the nearest convenience store. We have 3 neighbors on our side of the lake, but there aren't any kids, and it's mostly all retired or vacationing elderly people that don't stay up past 10, and it's perfectly quiet when the sun goes down. Here's my story. I have zero explanation for this, and the most reasonable thing to assume is a skinwalker. At around 11:30 p.m., maybe midnight, my cousin and I go down to our dock on the water. We have to walk through a short path in the woods to get there, and the thick trees border directly on the shore. There is no beach. While looking out at the stars and the water, we hear a quiet, raspy grumbling. That's the best way I can explain it, out in the forest, pretty far away. We didn't really know what it was, and it wasn't bothered by it. About 2 minutes later, we hear the same voice say both of our names. This time, it was closer to our property. From our docks, we can see along the shoreline, and we're near a corner, so we can see pretty well along the coast to our left. We were looking for a flashlight in the trees and saw nothing. Maybe someone was kayaking at night and said something to their friend, and we just heard them wrong. Sound travels across the water very easy, so it could have been someone just talking. Although our neighbors are about a third of a mile away, our uncle couldn't be pulling a prank on us because of how far he lived from us. 5 minutes pass and we've calmed down. While we're sitting there in silence thinking about what just happened, we hear footsteps, loud, leaf-crunching footsteps about 10 feet to the left of our dock, right behind the tree line so we couldn't see anything. These footsteps were either from a human, bear, or deer. My cousin whispered that we need to get inside, but I told him that it might be a bear and didn't want to get chased while running back inside, so we were sitting on the dock holding our breath as the footsteps continued, then stopped for a bit. All of a sudden, we hear the same voice that said our names. Hello? I never had been more scared in my life. The voice was speaking English, but it wasn't human. It had an almost robotic growl under the word. Both of us shit our pants at this point and sprint inside, not even trying to glance at what was in the trees. We couldn't see it anyways. My uncle was sitting on the couch with our dog. We spent the next 30 minutes checking the whole property and nearby forests, but didn't see anything. What the hell could it have been? This happened a little more than a week ago, and the scariest part I was wondering is, how did they know our names and why were they on our property? Yesterday I was reminded of Skinwalker by some videos on YouTube. It fits almost perfectly with the story, but they are not known for being in New York. I wish I saw what it was, to see if it had been human or deer form. But the trees were so thick and it was so dark we couldn't see anything behind the trees. Anyways, talking about them is apparently bad luck, and encountering what I experienced ever again will be too soon. Alright guys, those were two great encounters that happened in my neck of the woods. First, I don't think either one was a skinwalker. Now, just about a half an hour from me is a Mohawk reservation where some of my family members live. I'm going to find out what Anawanda means, but I know it's Mohawk, and if anyone knows what the word Mohawk means, that comes from the Iroquois word for man-eaters. My lineage is Mohawk, and we were fierce fighters, apparently, back in the day. The first story, I'm thinking Dogman, straight across the board. The second story, I'm thinking Wendigo. You're close to the Canadian border. Iroquois, Mohawk, all believe in the Wendigo. That's pretty much where that name stems from. A lot of people get it wrong. A lot of people think they know where the words come from, but there's a museum on Hogansburg Reservation, and there's lots of artwork about this. Skinwalkers are Navajo, shaman, black witches. They don't have any bearing in the North Country, so definitely not a skinwalker. Dogman first story, Wendigo second. Let me know what you guys think. Thanks for tuning in, and new stories tomorrow. Have a good night.